public will be given an opportunity to speak during public open sessions, but not at other times. Do we have any members of the public online? Funder, obviously there's none in the chamber. No. The meeting is being filmed, and by being present, attendees are deemed to have agreed to be filmed and to the use of those images and sound recordings. I can advise that attendees should not disclose any personal information of individuals, as this would infringe the data protection rights of that individual. May I please ask everyone to mute their microphones when not speaking? Thank you. Right, item 1, apologies for absence. I believe we only have one from Councillor Woodhead, who is maybe late or indeed may not arrive at all. We don't know.
Chairman,
any other?
If I may, I'm not sure whether Councillor Gilcher has given formal apologies. No, I'll come back to. I've seen something that in relation to at the meeting. I think Councillor Gilcher may have made apologies to me directly, but I'm just going to need to check something.
Okay.
All right. Apologies.
Councillor Strawn. Yes.
I thought Councillor Jones had sent her apologies.
Yes, she has. She did.
Which I think we're all aware of, because she made some observations.
Oh yes, she did. Yes, you're right.
So I think her apologies should be recorded.
Wiltshire and Jones. Yes. Okay, so that should be recorded. Yes. Right. Next, are there any declarations of interest, disclosable pecuniary interests or non-pecuniary interests in any agenda item? No. No disclosure of interest. Chairman's announcements. I don't really have any announcements, to be honest. So item 4, public open session. Well, we have no members of the public present or online. No, right. So we'll move on then. Members' questions. Do we have any members' questions? No. Right. Moving on, 6, minutes and recommendations of meetings. So this is for the PLOS meeting of 3rd of October, which is not that far away, or in the past. So just looking at this is starting on page 6 of the pack. So just looking at content for accuracy. Does anybody have any comments? Page 1, Councillor Strawn.
Yes, I'm a bit confused by Councillor Woodhead. He's either here or not here, but he's obviously got split personality on this basis.
Yeah, so perhaps one day you can check on. Was he here or not? Probably not, if he's listed as an apology. But yeah, okay. Thank you, Councillor Strawn. Page 7. No. 8. Accuracy. 9. And 10, any comments on accuracy? No. So they're accepted as a true record of the meeting. Item 7 on the agenda, matters arising. It says here minutes of the council meeting, but it should really be the PLOS meeting, I think. Should it? On Tuesday? Yes. It's the PLOS meeting, minutes of the PLOS meeting held on Tuesday, 3rd of October. Yes? Yes. So are there any matters arising? Page 1. Page 2. Page 3. Oh, sorry, page 8. Councillor Strawn.
Yes, the final paragraph of the page, the Town and Clerk and Chief Executive suggested it may be an opportunity to reach out within the community and take into consideration, etc. Has any such reaching out taken place?
No, it's on our list of things to do. We haven't done it
yet. Page 9, matters arising. Any comments? Page 10, matters arising. Councillor Strawn.
Yes, the final item, or paragraph of item 10, the Fen Reeves, have we had a report on what occurred there, please?
No, we haven't, but Councillor Russell is working with the Fen Reeves on an information sheet which can be widely publicised, giving facts about the regulatory framework under which the common is managed and what everyone's responsibilities are when using the common. I believe that Councillor Russell is meeting the Fen Reeves this evening, I think. Well, that's not entirely clear. So that's all really. that is to be clarified. I mean, so as to who is responsible for what. Thank you. Right. Any other matters arising? No? Items, right, item 8, items for consideration. 8A. We have a written report on this. Yeah. So, Head of Governance, would you like to comment on this?
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. So on this report, essentially what we're saying is that there's an expression of interest which is underway for contractors to come get in touch with us, to come and conduct site visits with us, to talk through and identify themselves what they see in terms of the various equipment that we have and the ground surfaces. And that closes, I think, on the 30th of November. Myself and the Public Realm Manager have booked a series of site visits with interested parties already. There's about 5, I think, so far. And that's with a view to kind of to giving us an external opinion in terms of the condition of I suppose that on balance, the majority of equipment across all the areas, that's what this is focusing on in terms of this report, with a view to see which ones can be prioritised or should be prioritised first.
So, just to be clear, you're treating it as like a project to go through all of these. What is it? 11? Is it 11 play areas? Yeah, 11 play areas to do the specified work.
Thanks. Yeah, that's right. We're trying to be systematic on this basis. So we've done obviously an internal trawl already with our internally qualified people to look at the play equipment. We're now getting essentially a series of second opinions, if you like, on the rest of that on the same equipment, to see if either we're correct or incorrect, or which items are indeed to be prioritised on this kind of initial assessment. So yes, it is subject to change, which we will know more about soon after the 30th of November in terms of the capital outlay.
Councillor Knight.
Thank you, and thank you for the report. This might be a dumb question, I suppose. So we're asking people to tender to the specification in Appendix A. Is it normal to list the estimated cost in the appendix and provide that to the tenderers? Because it looks like we have, and I would expect them to tell us, and for us not to tell them how much we think it's going to cost.
I suggest we come back to that when Corinne has just checked the information.
Yeah. Perhaps I can ask an additional question. Does anybody else have any questions on this? Councillor Strong.
Yes, I noticed all the various play equipment that we have. Now, we do have a fixed asset register, which I think details the equipment, not necessarily broken down in quite this way into the individual headings, because we have it in the accounts and the background papers for depreciation. Might it be helpful if at some stage we actually, as a committee, saw the fixed asset register relating to the individual items that we have under this committee, so that we can actually relate to what is shown in the wish list that we've got here? Because I think that I recently had the opportunity to see this as chairman of F&GP, but it seems to be quite extensive. And I think this is something that we should be looking at across the board, and it would go as far as to saying the equipment we've got in the depot and everything to stock take, and actually get that so that members are aware of it, so that when we have funding requests, we can actually see what is replacement, what has actually died in the last year, and what is actually new.
What? I'm not quite sure what. You're saying that you want a list of all the play equipment that is in all these playgrounds now? Yeah, please, Peter, yes, respond.
Yeah. The chair of F&GP is correct. Obviously, we maintain a fixed asset register. I'm very happy to share that more broadly with members, which will incorporate all of the public realm related activities and PLOS related activities.
Yeah.
Of course.
So is that the point you were making?
That's the point I'm making,
Oh, right,
because
yeah, so we have that.
we've
Yeah.
got the list, and I think it would be helpful to actually understand what we have and when making decisions in the future. I would hate to see it with all the financial information I've got with depreciation and such like, because that would just confuse people, because it confuses me. But I think it's an excellent list, so that I think it should be shared.
Yeah. So
All I was going to say was, of course, it definitely does exist. It should exist. And obviously internal audit and external audit pay reference to it as well. Thank you.
do you, Karim, do you have a response then to Councillor Knight?
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Chairman. So in response to Councillor Knight, I had to double check. We have not shared that particular information on the expression of interest. It's just generally a blurb, a summary, which says we'd invite your interest, come along, pick up the phone, email us, and come along and do a site visit with us. Then we can talk it through further.
Thank you. I suggest maybe it shouldn't have been in public papers then, because it's now
Possibly,
on the public record.
Right, anyway, there's a recommendation that committee members note this report and approve that the project may continue within the above parameters ahead of the 14th November Town Council meeting for approval of the budget for the project. All those in favour? No, nobody. Against? Nobody. Right, I'll cast my casting vote and say yes, it's approved then. What's going on?
No, I mean, perhaps it might be wise to open the debate to members to see whether they have any other alternative opinions.
Well, I thought we'd done that already.
We passed some comment connected to the paper, but we haven't heard any suggestions from members as to a way forward. Yeah.
Well, we've made a proposal that we accept the recommendation as stated, and nobody voted in favour of it. Nobody
Has the
voted
proposal
against
been
it, and
seconded?
I cast my casting vote in favour.
Yeah.
Point of order, the proposal needs to be seconded.
All right. All right, well, let's start. Does anybody, we see here what's in the report. We've had a number of questions about it, clarifications. It is the recommendation is that it's basically approved by us as a report, and that it goes to the council for approval at that level, because obviously it's quite a major expenditure and investment of the PWLB money. Now, does anybody have any alternative suggestions as to how that might be dealt with in a different way or anything like that? Peter, please.
Let us say something perhaps before we widen the debate. So just to reiterate and perhaps to underline, this is in no way absolutely prescriptive in regards to our direction of travel. This is an indicative sense, a kind of position in time about where we are. It doesn't have any deep intelligence connected to the necessary specifications or cost. It is just a point in time paper, and that's all it is. When that information flows through to members and board council, then it will be incorporated into the more detailed paper in November when we're considering PWLB issues. For now, it's just effectively there for us as a point of reference.
Councillor Strong.
Chairman, I think it's simple. All we can do is actually note the report, and that's the extent of it. I move that we note the report.
All right, is that seconded?
Yeah, I also think that we've got numbers here that are guesswork, and we don't have any quotes yet because it hasn't come back from tender. So until it comes back from tender on the 30th, did you say? Then we're going to struggle to decide on this.
And if the exercise closes on the 30th of November, you won't have any definite figures, will you, until the 30th of November? So should it go to the 14th November Town Council meeting anyway? Or maybe just there as an indicative? Yes, okay, it can go as a sort of indicating that's what's on the horizon, but the figures are not certain.
So just to clarify, for those projects which have precise information, complete information, of course they'll be incorporated into that more fuller report. For those which are big projects which are waiting for greater intelligence, then they'll have to be deferred until the right point in time.
Yeah.
Can I just clarify what we're going to vote on then? So the proposal is that we note the report. We're not approving anything. We're just noting the report.
We're noting the report to be submitted to full council.
Happy to second that, or you seconded already, Colin?
Colin, the second. Did you want to make another comment, Colin? Councillor Thomas, I mean. So does anybody have any other comments on this? Right, we need to vote. All those in favour of the proposal, which is to note the report. Right, all those against? And it's Councillor Skilton, what's he voting? Oh, it's not.
Can't vote anyway.
No, he can't vote on Zoom. Can
Not
he?
allowed to vote.
Right.
It's the rules.
Right, moving on. Football pitches report. Now, I have been advised that this has slightly been overtaken by events. Although I think there is still some relevance here. I mean, it's an outline of something and states this. Would you like to comment on this, Peter?
Okay, yeah. I was just going to pass a comment on the earlier observation, just ever so quickly. The government didn't put forward the amendments that were being put forward by NAUC. So effectively, the opportunity going forward connected to members having the opportunity of casting votes electronically and not being physically present has been declined. So that won't happen, just to let you know.
All right.
Anyway, moving forward.
On the football pitches.
On the football pitches. So since this report was written, we've had internal conversations with members to try and ascertain their appetite for emerging issues connected to our new budget for the new financial year. Whilst it's interesting to note the intelligence in this report, for members to actually come to an informed view on it, there needs to be a business case being put forward to members, which looks at both the kind of credits and debits associated with this, and a more in-depth analysis of the quality of our pitches, and importantly, the future demand connected to the usage. And only then can you come to an informed view. So from my perspective, whilst this is helpful to note, it does not give the full picture at the moment. So you cannot come to an informed view. Yeah. So for me, I think the report is redundant for now.
Okay, but it is interesting that this subject has been raised. I think that's a matter of interest for the council because it's not one that's been raised before at PLOS. And there is also a comment here, and I'm not sure, and I think it's not absolutely necessary to consider it as one major project because there's a comment here about meeting current, current safety compliance or something. Yeah, pitches goalposts to meet the current safety compliance standards. Well, maybe that's something that could be taken separately and is perhaps considered urgent to do if it's a matter of safety compliance. And the rest of it could be deferred. Maybe some things could be done in the short term or some things in the long term. Perhaps that could be in your wider report. Would you like to comment on this, Kareem?
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. So, yeah, essentially the report it's there as a kind of for information piece, which obviously can be worked up further with a full business case along various parameters. There's a couple of points to add, actually, if I may. One is that the report does note that there are various sources of funding available, not just obviously the main council budget going forward, but the point is that to gain access or maximum possible access to grant funding, the majority of those sources do talk about match funding essentially. So that's why it sort of comes with a kind of a hook in there saying that there's got to be something essentially which we put forward in the budget potentially where this deemed to be, you know, a high enough priority going forward to then attract the sort of commensurate match funding going forward from the various sources. In terms of the safety compliance, the point is, I think on square goalposts, we've done quite a lot of research on this, and it's actually from 1987 that there was a ruling that says they shouldn't really be sold anymore in the UK, Europe, or elsewhere. That said, it's a legacy item which still remains there, so it's still valid to have it there. It's just not essentially best practice. There, I say it from now. That's to try and clarify. Yeah.
Thank you, Chairman. I appreciate the comments made about the alternative variable sources that are set out in the final paragraph of this letter. I hope that when the business case comes to council, all those sources will be explained to members in more detail.
Thank you. So I think it's absolutely right that we do look at our football offer to the town and the community as a town council, and we have a number of sites that we are responsible for. I think as part of that, we also need to consider the other sites in the parish, including a number of clubs and the local school that's getting its 3G pitch, and also potentially the sites that could come into our control. And there's at least one site that we may have the opportunity to adopt. So to my mind, we need to look at this very strategically. We need to look at the likely demand over a 10 to 15 year timeframe and consider all of those other elements. So I think it's very good that we get a strategic review. We understand the demand, we consult with the current users and perhaps the potential users. I do wonder if the 14th of November is too aggressive and whether it's possible to complete it in that time. So, my view is it's all good work, but I would rather see it done thoroughly than see it rushed to try to meet an artificial date. And I don't think the 14th, to my mind, we don't have to hit that date. Thank you.
Well, yeah, I would agree with that actually. And there are other priorities that PLOS has got as well. Councillor Foster.
Yeah, I entirely agree with Councillor Knight here, and I think the report's interesting. It does give some sort of some context, but I think we need to understand a little bit more. And obviously, we've been sort of considering items around growth, and there are a number of items in here that haven't been brought forward to that process so far. I think we need to understand what that looks like, given that if these are deemed to be things we should be considering, or what sort of timescales that might look like. So. If our pavilions do need work, then what does that look like? So let's have the proper case, as Councillor Knight has said. But we do have to look at the provision that we offer, but it's how we do that and when.
Okay, any other comments on this? Right, well, we won't make a proposal or anything on that one. Item 3 information, Drove Road Chapel update. Now we have a written report on this with some, well, I was going to say some very nice pictures. They're not particularly nice, really. But the recommendation is to note the report. If Peter, would you like to give us some background information on this?
Thank you very much. As we know, there's a clear resolution of council that no work that is funded by PWLB should be determined unless it goes to full council. That's been in place for a period of time now. Mm-hmm. This is one of the smaller projects now, because we've been going on for year 2, that needs to be considered. So again, this is more of an update than anything else. The precise information that flows from this report will be embedded in the report on the 14th of November to council. And at that point in time, council will determine whether to proceed or not. The one piece of good news, I guess, that's in here at the moment is that the vandalized boundary wall that you can see pictures of, I think it is Appendix B, the monies have now been received from our insurers of just in excess of £5,000, and we're able now to proceed with putting that wall back to its original state of repair. So that's one piece of good news. Yeah. But the rest of the project won't be debated until the 14th of November when you've got precise information in front of you. Thank you. Right, okay, but this is a long-term project. I mean, it was set out originally to be a three-year project, wasn't it? Yeah, so that's ongoing. Councillor Strawn.
Yes, my particular concern is the inflated phase 2 specification cost, because that has gone up by over 40%, which seems disproportionate in all terms of inflation, and that causes me concern. And it further causes me concern that I don't want to see further inflated costs, because this is quite a dramatic increase, and I'd like to really know what the justification is for these inflated costs, because certainly if we put the rate council tax up by 40%, people would be screaming. So I think we should be screaming at this stage to at least understand the real reasons why.
Peter.
Yeah, I agree with you. When I looked at the costs, they're very significant compared to the original budget estimate. So obviously we have a listed building expert who's project managing the project on our behalf. And in the report that I produced for the 14th of November, I'll be clear about what the price inflation relates to and why. And then you can determine whether it's reasonable or not.
Councillor Knight.
I guess it's just an observation. Obviously, it's preferable to work to fixed price contracts where practicable. I don't know whether perhaps builders aren't willing to do that in the current climate, but that would obviously be to our advantage.
Yes,
Can I
Peter.
comment? Yeah. The original specification for this work goes back quite a period of time, actually, and was very thoughtfully put together. The problems that we experienced at the time are almost going to hit us a little bit here post-COVID, in the sense that there were significant elements of price inflation associated with building materials. And you're right, ideally you should go with fixed cost, but at the time that wasn't perceived as an option. But I think in future pieces of project work, of course, then, because at least then we can manage our outputs and we know that they're not going to increase.
Okay, now right, moving on, 9B, Jubilee Recreation Ground update. A verbal update from the Head of Governance and Strategic Partnerships.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. So just briefly, this is an item that's been, as I understand it, outstanding since at least 2018, 2019, around that period. It regards the fact that there's a metal palisade fencing going across a footpath on the Jubilee walkway area, which is clearly wrong from any aspect you look at it, because it actually literally cuts off the pathway. So most recently, I think it's earlier this week, we've received, having been in discussion with the developers, we've received an email back from them confirming that the fence in question does not belong to them, that they are 100% comfortable and happy with us to remove it, and that's where we're at the moment. They have not, they will not remove the fence themselves. So that's what I can report. So it's progress on one front. At least we've had confirmation back from the developers after well over a year and a half actually of engaging with them. That's it for now.
Well, thank you. That's very good news, and it has been going on for a long time. And I hope now we will, I mean, obviously they're not going to do it, so we will have to do it ourselves, and I hope we will be able to expedite that now and get on with it. Any further comments? Councillor Strawn.
Yes. Do we actually own that fence, or is it on their land? Because if it's on their land, it belongs to them, regardless of what they say about the maintenance, etc. So we do need clarification of that. And if that's not available tonight, which I appreciate it might not be, if it could come to the next capital assets working group as an observation in terms of what it is, just so that we can be sure that it is actually our responsibility and that we will be able to do it. Because if we build another fence, we'd need to do it onto our own land.
Karim, do you have a comment on that?
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, thanks, Councillor Strawn. I mean, happy, obviously, for this item to come back to CAWG, but they have confirmed it is their land that the fence is on, and it's not their fence. So that's where we are for now. I can go back and ask them to clarify further. But
yeah, I mean, if they're happy that we could chop a hole in it, then surely there's no problem there, is there?
I'm a bit confused by the answer, so perhaps rather than debate it tonight, I think we can go to CAWG's next meeting for clarification, and we can report back as necessary.
Well, I think we should get on with it and do it.
Sorry, Chairman, if I may, like others, I think I'm puzzled that there's a fence that's on belongs to someone else. So the land belongs to someone else. The fence doesn't belong to that particular person, but we're not clear. We need to get an absolute clarification, as Councillor Strawn has said. But if the owners of the land don't own the fence, and we're not sure who owns the fence, but we're not sure whether it's ours or not, that seems a bit of a conundrum. But if it's on their land and they don't want it and we can take it off, then let's move forward. I appreciate that, but I think the wider conversation is, what do we then want to do? What's next? It's all very well having an idea, okay, we own it, but we've got to have a plan for that area, and that should form part of some sort of business case or design for the area. And I know we've discussed it a number of times previously around, I've seen the original, we've got the original design somewhere that showed what we were looking to do with that area, and also the link in from the previous site. And it actually made the area much more appealing, I think. So I think we need to revisit that side of it. But yes, once we've resolved the issue with the fence, we're in a better position. Councillor, sorry.
I think that's exactly it. We now need to understand, once we have established the ownership and rights over that fence and have something in writing, what the vision and plan is. Because one side of the fence, there's a meandering path that would lead right to the middle of the Jubilee Recreation field. There's a tree in the way. So do we extend that path, which would essentially stop anyone using that area for knockabout football, which happens today? Or do we need to move that path to the side and have a gap towards the side, which of course would then involve additional capital expense, potentially on our land and on adjoining land? So we need to understand the available options. Probably worth another site visit while it's fresh in everyone's mind, and then come up with a proposed scheme.
Yes, well, yes, we need to be clear what we're intending to do. Yes, I agree, yes. But I do think we should try and, after we've waited for so long, we should try and get on with it. Right, next item 10, public open session. Do we have any, is anybody yet online, Funder? No, so we now move into exempt session and exempt items.